The invisible war destroying your future. There's a version of you that already knows exactly what needs to be done. Wake up earlier. Stop wasting hours scrolling. Focus on your goals. Train your body. Control your impulses. Finish what you start, but every single day, something pulls you back. You tell yourself you'll change tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes another year of watching your life stay exactly the same. And the dangerous part is that this doesn't happen all at once. Researchers who study behavioral addiction explain that the brain slowly adapts to comfort and every short video, every notification, every moment of instant pleasure trains your mind to avoid effort. Your brain starts craving what is easy and rejecting what creates growth. That's why simple tasks now feel exhausting. That's why your focus disappears after a few minutes. That's why you keep breaking promises to yourself even when you genuinely want to change. This is not laziness. This is conditioning. And most people never realize they are trapped inside it. They think they need more motivation, but motivation is unreliable. It disappears the moment discomfort appears. Discipline works differently. Discipline changes your relationship with pain itself. Studies on dopamine and habit formation show that the brain constantly repeats behaviors linked to immediate rewards. That means every time you choose comfort over effort, you reinforce a mental pathway that becomes harder to escape later. Now imagine repeating that pattern for years. This is how people slowly destroy their confidence. Not through failure, through self-betrayal. Because every time you say, "I'll do it later," your brain remembers. Every time you avoid difficulty, your identity weakens. Eventually, you stop trusting yourself completely. And once a person loses trust in themselves, everything starts collapsing silently. Focus disappears. Energy disappears. Ambition disappears. You begin surviving instead of living. But here's what most people never hear. Transformation does not require changing your entire life overnight. In reality, researchers discovered that a small number of repeated behaviors can completely reshape the brain's automatic responses over time. Your identity is not fixed. Your habits are programming it every single day, which means the disciplined version of you is not missing. It has simply been buried under years of mental conditioning. And in this video, you're going to discover the 3 habits capable of rebuilding that person from the inside out. Not fake motivation. Not temporary inspiration. Real psychological transformation. Because by the end of this video, you may realize the biggest enemy in your life was never other people. It was the version of you that kept choosing comfort over growth. And what you're about to hear next explains exactly how that conditioning began in the first place. Your brain is being trained to avoid pain. Your brain was never designed for the modern world. Thousands of years ago, the human mind evolved to conserve energy, avoid unnecessary discomfort, and seek immediate rewards whenever possible. That survival mechanism once protected people from starvation and danger. Today, it's being weaponized against you every hour of the day. Social media platforms, fast entertainment, processed food, constant notifications, endless scrolling. All of it is competing for one thing: your attention. And the frightening part is that your brain adapts faster than you realize. Researchers studying dopamine behavior discovered that constant exposure to instant stimulation lowers your tolerance for effort. In simple terms, your brain becomes impatient. It starts rejecting anything that requires sustained focus, repetition, or discomfort. That's why sitting quietly to work feels harder than watching videos for 2 hours straight. Your brain has been conditioned to chase stimulation instead of progress. And once this pattern repeats enough times, discomfort starts feeling abnormal. You begin avoiding difficult conversations, avoiding workouts, avoiding deep work, avoiding challenges that could actually transform your life. Not because you're incapable, because your nervous system learned that comfort equals safety. Scientists observed similar patterns in behavioral conditioning studies. Animals repeatedly exposed to easy rewards eventually stop exerting effort unless absolutely necessary. Humans are becoming trapped in the same cycle. Except now the rewards are available every second inside a screen. This is why discipline feels painful at first. You are not simply building habits. You are fighting years of neurological conditioning. Every time you try to focus, your brain looks for escape routes. Check your phone, open another tab. Eat something, watch something, delay the task. Negotiate with yourself, and the more often you obey those impulses, the stronger they become. Most people think discipline is about intensity. It's not. Discipline is about retraining your brain to stop panicking when discomfort appears. Because the moment you stop escaping discomfort, something powerful begins happening internally. Your mind becomes calmer. Your focus sharpens. Your emotional control increases. You stop reacting impulsively to every craving and distraction. Researchers from behavioral psychology fields explain that repeated exposure to manageable discomfort slowly rewires the brain's stress response. In other words, when you repeatedly do difficult things without escaping them, your brain stops treating discomfort like a threat. That is the moment real discipline begins. Not when motivation appears, when avoidance disappears. And the next habit you're about to hear is the first step to breaking this conditioning permanently. Because most people lose the mental battle within minutes of waking up every single morning. The first habit: win the first hour of your day. Most people lose control of their mind before they even leave bed. The first thing they touch every morning is not their goals, their body, or their responsibilities. It's their phone. And in that exact moment, their brain enters a reactive state. Messages, notifications, videos, news. Endless stimulation flooding the nervous system before the mind even has time to wake up properly. Researchers studying attention and dopamine regulation observe that the brain is highly impressionable during the first moments after waking. What you consume early in the morning influences your focus, emotional state, and decision-making for hours afterward. This means the first hour of your day is not just another hour. It is psychological programming. If the first thing your brain experiences is distraction, your mind spends the rest of the day craving more distraction. That's why people wake up tired, even after sleeping. Their brain never enters a focused state. It stays overstimulated from the very beginning. Highly disciplined people understand something most others ignore. The morning either builds momentum or destroys it. That's why the first habit is brutally simple. Protect the first hour of your day from unnecessary stimulation. No scrolling. No random videos. No consuming other people's opinions before your own mind becomes clear. Instead, train your brain to enter action before consumption. Move your body immediately after waking up. Walk, stretch, train, expose yourself to sunlight. Drink water, sit in silence for a few minutes without touching a screen. Because when you stop flooding your brain with stimulation early in the morning, something strange begins happening. Your thoughts become quieter. Your focus lasts longer. Your impulses weaken. Specialists in behavioral neuroscience explain that movement and reduced digital stimulation early in the morning helped regulate dopamine levels naturally, improving attention and reducing compulsive behavior throughout the day. This is why disciplined people often appear calmer under pressure. Their brain is not overloaded from the moment they wake up. But most people never experience this state because they begin every morning consuming instead of creating. And eventually, this creates a dangerous cycle. You stop directing your life. You start reacting to it. Every notification controls your attention. Every distraction steals your energy. Every impulse weakens your ability to focus. That's why this habit matters far beyond productivity. You are teaching your brain who is in control, the impulse, or you. Because if you cannot control the first hour of your day, controlling your future becomes almost impossible. And the next thing you're about to understand explains why so many people stay trapped in the same patterns for years, even when they desperately want to change. Why most people never change. Most people believe change happens when they finally feel motivated enough. That's the lie keeping them stuck. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect mindset, the perfect Monday. They think one day they'll wake up full of energy, ready to become disciplined instantly. But researchers who study human behavior discovered something uncomfortable. Emotions are unstable. Motivation rises and disappears constantly depending on sleep, stress, environment, stimulation, and even small daily frustrations. If your actions depend on emotion, your consistency dies the moment life becomes uncomfortable. That's why people restart their goals over and over again. They act emotionally instead of structurally. One productive day makes them feel unstoppable. One bad day destroys everything. The problem is deeper than laziness. It's identity. Behavioral psychologists explain that the brain always tries to protect the identity you repeat most often. That means every repeated action becomes evidence of who you believe you are. If you constantly procrastinate, your brain starts identifying you as someone who avoids effort. If you constantly quit halfway through, your mind begins expecting failure before you even start. This is why broken promises damage people so deeply. Not because of the task itself, because every abandoned commitment sends a message to your brain. I cannot trust myself, and discipline becomes extremely difficult. You begin negotiating with every responsibility. You say things like, "I'll start tomorrow. I'm just tired today. One more break won't hurt." But your brain is always listening. Researchers studying habit formation observe that repeated excuses create automatic behavioral loops. Over time, avoidance stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling natural. That's the terrifying part. You can slowly become a person you never intended to become. Not through one massive failure, through thousands of small acts of self-betrayal. And most people never interrupt the cycle because they misunderstand discipline completely. Discipline is not waking up excited every day. Discipline is acting, even when your emotions refuse to cooperate. It's separating action from mood. That is why highly disciplined people often look emotionally different from everyone else. They don't spend hours debating with themselves. They don't ask their feelings for permission. They train their brain to understand one thing: the task gets done regardless of emotion. And once your brain learns that pattern, your identity starts shifting automatically. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to become disciplined. You begin becoming someone who simply does what must be done. And the next habit is where this transformation becomes real, because it forces your brain to stop waiting for comfort before taking action. The second habit: do hard things before you feel ready. Most people wait for confidence before taking action. Disciplined people do the opposite. They act first, and that changes everything. Researchers studying fear and behavioral resistance discovered that the brain naturally exaggerates discomfort before difficult tasks. The anticipation often feels worse than the task itself. That's why you can spend hours mentally avoiding something that only takes 20 minutes to complete. Your brain is trying to protect you from uncertainty, but in the modern world, that protection becomes self-destruction. Because every time you delay action until you feel ready, you reinforce hesitation. And hesitation slowly becomes identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who thinks more than acts, someone who plans more than executes, someone who waits instead of moves. This is why the second habit is so powerful. Do difficult things before your emotions have time to negotiate. Wake up and move immediately. Start the task before overthinking begins. Speak before fear builds momentum. Train before motivation disappears. Because the longer you wait, the louder the excuses become. Behavior specialists observe that action itself changes emotional state faster than thinking does. In simple terms, movement creates momentum. Once the brain detects progress, resistance begins decreasing naturally. That's why disciplined people seem mentally stronger. Not because they feel less fear, because they stopped obeying it. And this is where most people lose years of their life. They spend too much time preparing mentally for actions that should have been started immediately. They want certainty before effort, comfort before growth, confidence before movement. But confidence is built after repeated action, not before Italiano. Think about how animals adapt in nature. Researchers observe that survival behaviors strengthen through exposure and repetition. The more an animal faces controlled stress, the calmer its nervous system becomes under pressure later. Humans work similarly. Every difficult action you complete teaches your brain something important. I can survive discomfort. And once your brain learns that lesson repeatedly, fear loses authority over you. This is the hidden psychological advantage disciplined people develop. They shorten the distance between thought and action. They stop negotiating. They stop waiting. They stop asking themselves how they feel every 5 minutes, because they understand something most people never realize. Your future is built by actions performed while uncomfortable, not while inspired. And the next thing you're about to hear explains why modern life is making this ability harder than ever before. Because most people are trapped inside a dopamine cycle that quietly destroys ambition, focus, and mental strength every single day. The dopamine trap, keeping you weak. Your brain is being trained to crave distraction every single day, and most people have no idea it's happening. Researchers studying dopamine behavior explain that dopamine is not just about pleasure. It's deeply connected to anticipation, motivation, and behavioral repetition. Your brain constantly learns what to pursue based on what gives quick emotional rewards. That becomes dangerous in a world where stimulation never stops. Short videos, infinite scrolling, instant entertainment, constant notifications. Your nervous system is being flooded with rewards. Your brain was never designed to process continuously, and over time, something disturbing starts happening. Normal life begins feeling boring. Deep work feels painful. Silence feels uncomfortable. Reading feels exhausting. Long-term goals stop creating excitement because your brain becomes addicted to speed, novelty, and instant gratification. Scientists observed that repeated overstimulation reduces sensitivity to slower rewards. In simple terms, the more your brain consumes easy dopamine, the harder it becomes to feel motivated by effort-based activities. This is why so many people feel mentally exhausted even when they've done nothing important all day. Their brain is overstimulated and the worst part is that overstimulation creates emotional weakness. Your attention span shrinks. Your patience weakens. Your tolerance for discomfort collapses. You become reactive instead of intentional. That's why people constantly check their phone without thinking. Why they open apps automatically. Why they feel anxious in silence. Their brains stop tolerating stillness. Behavior experts explain that compulsive stimulation slowly trains the nervous system to avoid reflection, boredom, and delayed gratification. But boredom itself plays an important role in mental recovery and focus restoration. Without moments of silence, the brain never resets properly. That's why disciplined people protect their attention aggressively. They understand attention is power. Whatever controls your attention eventually controls your behavior. And whatever controls your behavior shapes your entire future. This is not about becoming emotionless or rejecting pleasure completely. It's about reclaiming control. Because right now, millions of people are unknowingly living in constant mental fragmentation. Their focus is divided. Their energy is scattered. Their goals are buried underneath endless stimulation, and they mistake this for normal life. But once you reduce unnecessary dopamine overload, your mind starts changing rapidly. Your thoughts slow down. Your concentration returns. Simple work becomes easier. Your emotions become more stable. You begin feeling present again. And this is where the final habit becomes extremely powerful, because it forces you to separate yourself from noise, validation, and constant exposure long enough to rebuild your mind in silence. The third habit: disappear and build in silence. Most people destroy their progress by talking about it too early. They announce goals before building discipline. They seek validation before earning results. And without realizing it, they replace action with attention. Researchers studying motivation observe something interesting about the brain. When people constantly share unfinished goals and receive social approval for them, the brain can experience a false sense of accomplishment before real work is done. In simple terms, your mind starts confusing attention with progress. That's why so many people stay stuck in endless preparation, talking, posting, planning, explaining, but never truly transforming. Disciplined people move differently. They disappear for a while, not because they hate people, because they understand growth needs protection. Think about how nature works. Specialists who study animal behavior observe that many animals isolate themselves during vulnerable periods of transformation, recovery, or adaptation. Reduced exposure lowers stress and preserves energy for survival. Humans are not very different. Your mind changes faster when external noise decreases, because silence exposes what distraction was hiding. Your insecurities, your impulses, your addictions, your fear of being alone with your own thoughts. That's why most people constantly seek stimulation. Silence forces but this habit changes everything. Learn to build quietly. Work without announcing every step. Improve without needing recognition. Train your mind to enjoy progress that nobody sees, because real discipline is invisible at first. Nobody notices the early mornings. Nobody applauds the repetition. Nobody sees the mental battles happening internally. But that hidden phase is where identity is rebuilt. Behavioral experts explain that repeated private victories strengthen internal self-respect more deeply than external praise. When your brain learns that you can act consistently without validation, your confidence becomes stable instead of dependent on other people's reactions. Not looking disciplined, becoming disciplined. And something strange begins happening when you spend enough time building in silence. You stop craving constant approval. You stop comparing yourself constantly. You stop needing everyone to understand your goals, because your focus becomes stronger than your desire for attention. This is the stage where many people around you may think nothing is changing, but internally, everything is changing. Your standards rise. Your habits sharpen, your emotional control strengthens, and eventually, the results become impossible to hide, because discipline practiced in silence eventually speaks through your entire life. And the next thing you're about to understand is the exact moment your identity starts transforming so deeply that your old self begins feeling like a stranger. The moment your identity begins to change. At first, discipline feels unnatural. You force yourself to wake up earlier. You force yourself to focus. You force yourself to resist distractions. Everything feels heavy because your brain is still attached to old patterns. But then something subtle begins happening. The resistance starts getting quieter. Researchers studying neuroplasticity explained that the brain constantly reorganizes itself based on repeated behavior. Every repeated action strengthens certain neural pathways while weakening others. In simple terms, your brain becomes better at whatever you repeatedly do. That means discipline is not just changing your schedule, it is physically changing the way your mind operates. And one day, you begin noticing small signs that your identity is shifting. You stop reaching for your phone automatically. You recover focus faster after distractions. You feel uncomfortable wasting time. You start keeping promises to yourself without constant internal battles. That's when discipline stops being performance and starts becoming personality. Most people never reach this stage because they quit too early. They expect immediate transformation and become frustrated when the process feels slow. But behavioral experts observed that lasting identity change usually happens gradually and almost invisibly at first. Just like the body changes through repeated training, the mind changes through repeated behavior. Small actions, repeated consistently. That is what reshapes identity. And the dangerous part is that this process works both ways. Repeated weakness creates a weak identity. Repeated discipline creates a disciplined identity. Your brain is always adapting to the standard you practice most often. That's why every action matters more than people realize. Every excuse reinforces one version of you. Every difficult action strengthens another. And eventually, the gap between those two identities becomes massive. You begin noticing it in the way you think, the way you react under pressure, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself. Because self-respect starts growing when your actions align with your words. Researchers studying confidence found that confidence increases when people repeatedly prove reliability to themselves through action. Real confidence is not built through positive thinking alone. It grows when your brain collects evidence that you can trust yourself. That changes your entire emotional state. You stop feeling powerless. You stop feeling mentally scattered. You stop seeing yourself as someone trapped by impulses. And this is the moment your old life starts becoming incompatible with who you're becoming. But most people will never experience this version of themselves because they choose temporary comfort before they ever reach the transformation waiting on the other side of discipline. Most people will never experience this version of themselves. Most people will spend their entire life reacting instead of deciding, reacting to notifications, reacting to emotions, reacting to cravings, reacting to stress. And after years of living this way, they start believing that exhaustion, distraction, and lack of control are normal. But it's not normal. It's conditioning repeated for so long that it became identity. Researchers studying behavioral patterns discovered that humans naturally repeat familiar emotional states, even destructive ones. The brain prefers what is familiar over what is beneficial, because familiarity feels psychologically safe. That means many people stay trapped, not because they enjoy suffering, but because discomfort has become predictable. Predictable weakness, predictable procrastination, predictable excuses. And the terrifying part is how slowly this destroys a person. Not in one dramatic moment, but quietly. Year after year, potential disappears silently. Dreams shrink silently. Confidence weakens silently. Until one day people wake up realizing they became someone they never wanted to become. Not because life stopped them, because they stopped themselves. That's why discipline is so rare now. Modern life rewards comfort constantly. Everything around you is designed to reduce effort, shorten attention span, and keep your mind dependent on stimulation. And most people surrender to it without resistance. They become mentally soft without noticing. Unable to focus deeply, unable to sit in silence, unable to commit consistently, unable to endure discomfort long enough to build something meaningful. But the people who escape this cycle experience something different. Their mind becomes sharper. Their emotions become calmer. Their decisions become intentional. They stop needing motivation for every action because discipline replaces emotional dependence. And over time, this creates an entirely different life. Behavior specialists explain that repeated disciplined behavior changes not only habits, but also long-term perception of personal capability. In simple terms, disciplined people begin seeing obstacles differently because their brain no longer interprets discomfort as danger. That changes everything, because once fear stops controlling your actions, your potential expands dramatically. And this is why most people will never meet the strongest version of themselves. They quit during the uncomfortable phase, where transformation is still invisible. They return to distraction before the mind fully adapts. They choose temporary relief over permanent growth. But if you've made it this far, there's a reason. Part of you is already tired of living below your potential. Part of you already knows you were meant for more than endless distraction and self-negotiation. And what comes next is the most important realization of this entire video, because it determines whether your future self will respect the decisions you make starting today. Become someone your old self wouldn't recognize. 6 months from now, your life will reflect the habits you repeated when nobody was watching. Not your intentions, not your motivation, your habits. Researchers who study long-term behavior change explain that the brain slowly builds identity through repetition. What you repeatedly tolerate, repeat, and reinforce becomes the person you eventually become. That means your future is not being created once. It's being created daily. Every time you choose focus over distraction, every time you move instead of procrastinating, every time you act before your emotions feel ready, every time you refuse to escape discomfort, you are rebuilding yourself. And at first, the changes will feel invisible. People around you may not notice anything immediately, but internally, your mind begins transforming. Your standards rise, your self-respect increases, your attention sharpens, your emotional reactions become calmer. You stop feeling controlled by impulses every hour of the day, because discipline does something motivation never can. It creates stability, and stability changes everything. Think about how strong animals survive in harsh environments. Research has observed that survival rarely depends on bursts of energy. It depends on consistency, adaptation, and controlled behavior repeated over time. Humans are no different. Your life is shaped less by intense moments and more by repeated patterns. That means small, disciplined actions are never small. They are identity training. And one day, you suddenly realize something powerful. The things that once controlled you no longer have the same power. The distractions feel weaker. The excuses sound emptier. The difficult tasks feel normal. You stop seeing discipline as punishment. You start seeing it as freedom. Freedom from impulses, freedom from chaos, freedom from becoming another person who wasted their potential chasing comfort every single day. Most people never experience this version of themselves because they keep waiting for transformation to feel easy. But transformation was never supposed to feel comfortable. It was supposed to rebuild you. So when you leave this video, remember, you do not need to change your entire life overnight. You only need to stop feeding the habits that are destroying your future and start repeating the ones that build mental strength instead. Because the person you become over the next few months can either be someone trapped by distraction and excuses, or someone your old self wouldn't even recognize anymore. And the decision begins the moment this video ends.